The first
You
time
lied
Vivian
to us
Cross
all,
called
Ethan.
Ethan Cole obsolete,
please, not
she did
here.
it in front of his daughter.
In front of your
She
daughter,
did not raise her
you
voice.
knew.
She did
You
not need
sabotaged
to.
everything.
The room was quiet enough for every engineer, every
Ethan, you're an
investor,
embarrassment.
and every
The
camera
AI replaces
operator
you.
near
Dad,
the
why?
stage to hear her
He's
clearly.
obsolete. The
"I
board
belongs
agrees.
to the future, Mr.
You'll
Cole,"
see.
she said, looking at the worn technician badge clipped to his jacket. Not to men still fixing cables from the past. A few people smiled. No one defended him. Ethan did not answer. That silence bothered Vivian more than anger would have. Men like Ethan usually apologized when corrected by people like her. They stepped back. They lowered their eyes. They remembered where they stood. But Ethan only looked at the warning blinking on the Orion system monitor behind her. Memory bridge delay. Legacy index active. Model routing conflict. Then he looked at his 12-year-old daughter, Lily, sitting near the production table with her backpack in her lap. She had heard every word. 30 minutes later, Vivian Cross would stand on the largest stage of her career and watch her billion-dollar AI system fail live in front of investors, reporters, board members, and thousands of viewers online. And the only person in the building who understood why was the man she had just humiliated. That morning had begun before sunrise. Ethan and Lily arrived at the Neurovex Convention Center while the city was still gray and half asleep. The glass tower rose from the financial district like a monument to people who believed the future belonged to them. 40 stories of mirrored steel. A marble lobby polished to a shine. Digital banners covering the walls with the same glowing message. Orion is here. The future answers back. Lily looked up at the largest display. "This place looks like a spaceship," she said. Ethan adjusted the strap of his canvas tool bag. "It looks like a building with a large marketing budget." She gave him the look she reserved for moments when he refused to be impressed. "Dad, what?" "You're allergic to being amazed. I'm selective." The sitter had canceled at 5 in the morning. The backup sitter had not answered. The neighbor who sometimes helped on Saturdays had an appointment across town. So Ethan had done what single parents do when life offers no clean solution. He brought Lily with him. She would sit near the production table. She would finish her math worksheet. She would stay out of the way while he handled audio return, backup display, and console support for one of the most important technology launches of the year. It was not ideal, but Ethan's life had stopped being ideal a long time ago. Years earlier, he had owned Suits. He had spoken in rooms full of engineers who listened before they disagreed. He had built systems that solved problems most people could not describe. He had written architecture that allowed artificial intelligence tools to separate memory, reasoning, and permission before those words became investor language. Then the startup collapsed. The code was sold. The documentation was renamed. The people with titles rewrote the history. Ethan's name became smaller in the files, then smaller again, until it disappeared almost completely. He had fought it for a while. Then his wife Mara became sick, and suddenly public credit felt like a luxury compared to hospital bills, insurance forms, and trying to explain to Lily why her mother was always tired. Mara died on a rainy Tuesday evening, holding Ethan's hand while Lily slept in a chair beside the bed. After that, Ethan stopped chasing rooms that required him to prove his worth every morning. Technical event work paid honestly. It let him pick Lily up from school. It asked for focus, not performance. And most importantly, no one looked closely at the man behind the stage. Most days, that suited him. At the service entrance, a security guard scanned Ethan's badge. Stage support, audio return, backup display, and console support, Ethan said. The guard glanced at Lily. "She's with me," Ethan added. Cleared with production, the guard found the note and waved them through. Inside, the backstage area was already alive with pressure. Technicians rolled black equipment cases across the floor. Assistants carried tablets and coffee. Camera operators tested lenses from the wings. Lighting crews adjusted blue beams above the stage. The air smelled like warm electronics, new carpet, and money pretending it was confidence. The stage itself was massive. A curved platform stretched across the front of the auditorium. A glass podium stood at the center. Behind it, a giant LED wall displayed the Orion logo, a blue circle crossed by 3 thin lines pulsing slowly as if the machine had a heartbeat. Ethan stopped for half a second, not because the logo impressed him, because something about it felt familiar. Not the polish, not the branding, but the shape beneath it. Old systems, Ethan knew, often survived under new names. He led Lily to a folding chair near the production table. "Stay here," he said. "Don't cross the cable path. Don't touch anything with a glowing button. If someone asks who you are, I'm with stage support, and I'm not allowed to answer questions about equipment," Lily said. Ethan nodded. "Good. Do I get paid? You get lunch? Union lunch?" "Don't push your luck." She smiled, but when Ethan turned away and opened his canvas bag, the smile faded. Lily watched him take out a worn notebook, a voltage tester, a tablet with a cracked corner, and a roll of black tape. At school, other parents talked about startups, law firms, venture capital, and executive titles. When people asked what her father did, Lily usually said he worked technical jobs. She said it quickly. She hated that she said it quickly. But she hated the looks even more. Adults looked at Ethan like they had already measured him and found him small. They had no idea how carefully he saw things. Ethan began his checklist. Most people saw cables as clutter. Ethan saw sequence. Signal path, load stress, failure points. A system was not a pile of parts. It was a set of promises: power promised to arrive, audio promised to return, video promised to stay in sync, software promised to behave the same way under pressure as it behaved in rehearsal. Most disasters began as tiny lies. At 6:42 a.m., Ethan found the first one. It was not in the stage equipment. It was on a secondary technical monitor beside the A-Guide demo console. The Neurovex engineers had left Orion's dashboard open while they moved between setup tasks. Most indicators were green: model status, cloud connection, presentation mode, live stream interface, investor Q&A module. But near the bottom of the diagnostic panel, 3 lines blinked in amber: memory bridge delay, 4-7 seconds. Legacy index active, model routing conflict. Ethan stood still. The room kept moving around him. Someone called for a cable adapter. A camera assistant carried a tripod past his shoulder. A lighting technician asked whether the blue wash should be warmer. Ethan heard none of it for a moment. He leaned closer. A young engineer in a Neurovex hoodie stepped up to the console with coffee in one hand. His badge read, "Caleb Ross, AI Demo Operations." Ethan waited until Caleb placed the coffee away from the keyboard. "You may want to close the memory bridge before this goes live," Ethan said. Caleb looked up. Then he looked at Ethan's badge. "Event Technical Support." "Sorry? The demo is not using one clean memory source," Ethan said. "It is still connected to an archived training environment, a live investor demo layer, and a deprecated internal test index. If a live question triggers the wrong route, Orion may pull from all 3. Caleb blinked once. Then he smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was worse than that. It was automatic. The kind of smile someone gives when they believe a person has stepped outside his category. "Sir," Caleb said, "this isn't a speaker system." Ethan looked at the warning again. "No," he said, "it isn't." Caleb turned back to the keyboard, already finished with him. From her chair, Lily watched the exchange. Her pencil stopped moving over the math worksheet. She had seen that look before. Teachers gave it to her father when he corrected a form. Bank employees gave it to him when he explained a mistake in an account notice. Parents at school fundraisers gave it to him when they learned he worked contract technical jobs instead of leading meetings in glass offices. Lily hated that look because Ethan never fought it. By 8:30, the atmosphere changed. The ordinary noise of setup sharpened into something colder. Suits entered. Security with earpieces appeared at the side doors. PR staff began speaking in faster, lower voices. A documentary camera crew started filming controlled behind-the-scenes footage. Engineers checking displays, assistants reviewing schedules, Orion glowing behind the stage like a moon. Then Vivian Cross arrived. She did not enter loudly. She did not have to. The room adjusted around her before she said a word. Vivian was 42, tall, composed, and dressed in a black suit so precise it made everyone else look temporary. She had built Neuravex from a struggling analytics company into one of the most watched AI firms in the country. Investors called her visionary. Competitors called her ruthless. Reporters called her the face of the new intelligence economy. Vivian called herself prepared. She walked in with Adrian Vale, her CTO, at her right side. Adrian was younger than Ethan by almost a decade, sharp-eyed and clean-cut, with a tablet in his hand and the restless confidence of a man who had spent his whole career being the smartest person in increasingly expensive rooms. Behind them came 2 board members, 3 investors, a PR director, and the documentary crew. Vivian stopped at the edge of the stage and looked at the Orion logo. "Where are we?" Adrian answered without checking his tablet. "Stage is final. Livestream test passed. Demo environment is stable. Investor Q&A module is loaded but gated. We're 97% ready." Vivian's eyes moved across the hall. "And the other 3% human error," Adrian said. A few people smiled. Vivian did not. Her phone vibrated. She glanced down. Ethan was too far away to read the message, but he saw the change in her hand. Her thumb locked against the side of the phone. Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. The sender was Chairman Ellison. The message was short. "If Orion fails today, the board will discuss leadership transition tomorrow." Vivian read it once, then again. Her face remained calm, but something behind it became colder. For 2 years, the board had praised her in public and questioned her in private. They loved the valuation she created, but they feared the control she refused to surrender. Orion was not just a product launch. It was her argument for why Neuravex still belonged in her hands. She darkened the phone and placed it in her pocket. "Then remove human error," she said. Adrian nodded. "Already doing that." That was when Ethan made the mistake of speaking again. Before full rehearsal, he said, "You should close the bridge to the legacy index." Adrian turned first. Vivian followed his gaze, so did the camera crew. Ethan stood beside the secondary console, one hand resting on the back of a chair. His tool bag sat at his feet. There was a faint streak of dust on his sleeve. Behind him, Lily sat perfectly still. Adrian's expression hardened. "We handled this," he said. "No," Ethan replied. "Your engineer dismissed it. That isn't the same thing." A small silence opened. Vivian looked at Ethan's badge. "Who is this?" Adrian hesitated just long enough to reveal irritation. "He's stage support." Vivian's gaze moved from Ethan's badge to the cables near his boots, then to his canvas bag, then back to his face. "What exactly is your concern?" Ethan pointed to the monitor. "Orion is stable. The model isn't the problem. The problem is the layer calling it. Right now, the live system can still reach an archived training environment, a public demo session, and an old internal test index. During live Q&A, one question could make it retrieve the wrong memory from all 3. Adrian gave a short laugh. "That is not how this architecture works." Ethan glanced at him. "It is if your routing layer is older than your interface." That sentence should have ended the conversation differently. It did not. Vivian took one step closer. "I don't need a stage technician explaining artificial intelligence to my engineers," she said. The sentence landed with surgical calm. No one laughed loudly, but several people reacted. A breath through the nose, a suppressed smile. Caleb lowered his eyes to the keyboard. One investor glanced at Ethan like he had become an inconvenience in the schedule. The documentary camera was still pointed at them. The PR director raised 2 fingers. The camera lowered. Lily looked down at her backpack. Vivian saw the girl. She continued anyway. "I belongs to the future, Mr. Cole," she said. "Not to men still fixing cables from the past." Ethan did not move. Vivian seemed to expect embarrassment, protest, apology, something. Ethan gave her none of it. That irritated her more than resistance would have. "Some men," she added, "need to accept when their time has passed." Then she turned away. Adrian followed. The investors moved with them. The camera crew shifted to another angle. The room resumed its work. But the insult remained behind. Lily waited until they were gone. "Dad," she said quietly. Ethan picked up his tool bag. It's not fine." He looked at her then. Her face was tight. Not crying, refusing to cry, that was worse. "Why didn't you say anything?" she asked. Ethan crouched so his eyes were level with hers. Because people who need to feel taller usually look for someone they think is beneath them, he said. You don't have to help them by fighting from the place they put you. Lily stared at him, but she was wrong. Yes. So why didn't that matter? Ethan looked toward the Orion monitor, where the amber warning still blinked. Being right too early, he said, sounds the same as being wrong to people who don't want to listen. Lily looked away. Maybe you don't need them to know who you are, she said. But I do. The words were soft, but they cut deeper than Vivian's insult. Ethan understood what she was really saying. She was not only asking why he let people dismiss him. She was asking why he let the world make her feel small for being his daughter. He had no easy answer. Across the room, Vivian spoke to Adrian near the stage stairs. Keep him away from the product, she said. He won't get near it. Adrian replied. You're sure the system is clean? Yes, that was a lie. Adrian did not know it yet. By 10 o'clock, the convention center had transformed into a theater of certainty. The main hall filled with white chairs, blue lighting, branded signs, glass tables, and neatly arranged name cards. Every camera angle had been tested. Every press seat had been assigned. Every executive had been reminded where to stand and what to say if something went wrong, though everyone pretended nothing would. Outside financial networks were already covering the launch. Neurovex set to unveil Orion I Platform's in-landmark event. Vivian Cross aims to deflune next era of enterprise intelligence. Ethan moved along the side of the room with his checklist. He did not look like a man carrying a secret. He looked like a man doing a job carefully. There was safety in being underestimated. People did not guard their assumptions around men they had already dismissed. Near the production table, Caleb and two other engineers prepared the live demo environment. Ethan did not touch the system. He only watched. The warnings shifted. Memory bridge delay. 2 seconds. Legacy index active. Model routing conflict. Then Caleb minimized the dashboard and exposed a deeper architecture window for less than 3 seconds. Ethan saw the label. Col 9 Adaptive Routing Layer. His hand stopped on the edge of his clipboard. The room fell away. He was 15 years younger, standing in a windowless lab above a failing startup, writing routing logic on a whiteboard with a marker that kept dying. He was eating vending machine dinners, sleeping under his desk, and calling Mara after midnight to say he would be home soon, even though both of them knew soon meant morning. Col 9 had been a joke at first, the 9th attempt after 8 broken versions. The idea had been simple to describe and brutal to build, an adaptive routing layer that allowed different reasoning systems to share context without collapsing into confusion. A bridge between task, memory, and model output. A way for systems to remember only what they were permitted to remember. Back then it had been unfinished, messy, fragile, and brilliant. Then the money ran out. The startup sold its assets. The code moved, the name changed. The founders rewrote history in investor language. Ethan's name appeared in smaller and smaller places until eventually it disappeared entirely. He had fought it for a while. Then Mara got sick. After that, credit became a luxury he could not afford to chase. The Col 9 label vanished when Caleb closed the window. But Ethan had seen it. He had not been mistaken. Neurovex had built Orion on top of his old work. Lily watched him from her chair. Dad? He looked at her. What? You did the face again. What face? The one where you pretend nothing is wrong. Ethan looked back at the screen. Finish your worksheet. That means I'm right. It means finish your worksheet. At 1:30 p.m., the audience began to enter. By 1:55, every seat was full. 2,000 guests sat beneath the blue-white lights. Investors occupied the front rows. Analysts and journalists lined the sides. Enterprise clients filled the reserved sections. The board members sat together in a cluster that looked relaxed only from a distance. Behind the cameras, PR staff watched social media feeds climb. The live stream countdown appeared on the giant screen. 5 minutes. 4. 3. Vivian stood in the wing, holding her clicker. The stage lights gave the side of her face a cold blue edge. Adrian stood beside her. Orion is ready, he said. Vivian did not look at him. No surprises. No surprises. She glanced once toward the board section. Chairman Ellison sat in the front row. He gave her a small nod that contained no warmth. Across the backstage area, Ethan checked the manual display override. Lily stood beside him now, backpack on both shoulders. "You're worried," she said. "I'm working. That's not a no." He looked down at her. "If anything strange happens, stay by the production table." That is not comforting. It was not designed to be. The countdown reached 0. The auditorium lights dimmed. Music rose, low and cinematic, filling the room with the sound of controlled wonder. The Orion logo expanded across the screen. The audience applauded as Vivian Cross walked onto the stage. She was built for moments like this. Her posture was relaxed but precise. Her smile was warm enough for cameras, cool enough for investors, and confident enough to quiet doubt. She placed one hand on the glass podium and waited for the applause to fade. "Every generation believes it is standing at the edge of the future," she began. "Most are wrong. They are standing at the edge of a better tool, a faster machine, a cleaner interface. But not today." The screen shifted behind her. Hospitals, factories, ports, legal offices, financial dashboards, people making decisions under impossible amounts of data. "Today, Nuravex is not introducing another assistant," Vivian said. "We are introducing an intelligence layer for the modern enterprise. A system that understands not only the question you ask, but the world behind it." Adrian watched from the control area, arms folded. Caleb sat at the console, ready. Ethan stood 10 feet behind him, close enough to see the diagnostic panel, far enough not to be accused of interfering. The first demo worked perfectly. Vivian asked Orion to summarize a 30-page supply contract and identify hidden risk clauses. Orion responded in 8 seconds. The audience murmured with approval. She asked it to compare 3 market expansion strategies based on shipping volatility, labor costs, and regional tax exposure. Orion built a clean answer and visual chart in real time. Applause. Vivian's shoulders relaxed almost imperceptibly. She asked Orion to simulate a manufacturing delay and recommend an executive response. Orion answered with calm precision. More applause. Adrian smiled. Caleb exhaled. PR director whispered, "Beautiful." From the front row, Chairman Ellison looked less severe. Vivian stepped away from the podium. "And now," she said, "we move beyond prepared tasks." Orion was not designed to perform tricks. It was designed to reason under pressure. The room sharpened. "This portion is live." A man in the front row stood. Thomas Greer, managing partner at one of the largest enterprise funds in the country. His firm was tied to the $2 billion contract that everyone in the building was pretending not to obsess over. Greer adjusted his jacket. "Orion," he said, "how would you handle a conflict between customer privacy, internal corporate memory, and automated executive decision-making when a user requests an answer that may depend on restricted historical data?" A good question. A hard question. Exactly the kind of question Nuravex needed Orion to answer. The auditorium went quiet. The Orion logo pulsed once, then again. 5 seconds passed, then 8. Vivian kept her smile, but Ethan saw her hand tighten around the clicker. At the control table, Caleb leaned toward the monitor. The diagnostic panel flashed. Memory bridge, delay. 1 seconds, Orion began to answer, then stopped. The screen flickered. A line of text appeared. Privacy conflict detected. Retrieving enterprise memory context. Adrian leaned forward. "No," he whispered. The next line appeared. Referencing archive training environment, live demo memory, deprecated executive test index. The audience did not understand the line, but they understood the silence from the stage. Vivian turned slightly toward the control booth, still facing the audience enough to appear composed. Orion spoke through the auditorium speakers. "To resolve this request, the system should access prior executive preference logs and apply retained decision patterns from internal memory layer." Adrian moved fast. "Mute output." Caleb hit a key. "It's not muting. Cut the voice. I'm trying." The screen flashed again. Orion continued. "Legacy routing note, do not expose configuration phrase." Whispers moved through the audience. A journalist in the side row began typing quickly. The livestream chat on the PR monitor exploded. What was that? Did it just show internal config? Is this part of the demo? Vivian's smile disappeared, only for half a second, then she recovered it. But Ethan saw the effort. At the control table, 3 engineers began speaking at once. Server load? Stable? Latency? Normal? Session reset? Not responding. Cut the stream. Vivian hasn't signaled. Cut it anyway. If we cut during a privacy question, it looks worse. Adrian took the keyboard from Caleb, moved to backup instance. Ethan stepped closer. Don't do that. Adrian turned. Get him away from the console. Ethan's eyes were on the diagnostic panel. The warning changed from amber to red. Memory bridge delay. 8, 9 seconds. Legacy index active. Context collision imminent. It's not the model, Ethan said. No one listened. It's the bridge. Adrian stood. You are not authorized to touch this system. I'm not trying to touch it. Then stop talking. Ethan pointed to the lower right corner of the monitor. You have less than 90 seconds. Adrian looked despite himself. Ethan continued, voice low but clear. You're not talking to Orion. You're talking to 3 versions of it at once. The live model, the investor demo session, and the old internal test index. Every new question makes the system pull memory from all 3. Caleb stared at him. One of the engineers stopped typing. Adrian's expression changed, not much, but enough, because Ethan had named the failure too specifically to be guessing. On stage, Vivian heard him. She saw Adrian hesitate. That hesitation told her more than any technical explanation could. Her CTO did not know how to fix this fast enough. Orion flickered again. A new line appeared, accessing archived memory object. Vivian looked at the screen, then at Adrian, then at Ethan. For 1 second, the entire company balanced on her pride. If she let the technician in, she admitted she had been wrong in front of her engineers, investors, board, and the daughter of the man she had humiliated. If she did not, Orion might expose something no PR team could explain. Ethan said, if that opens publicly, your launch becomes a hearing. Vivian's face went still. Then she made the only decision left. Let him in. Adrian stepped back. Ethan sat at the console. The chair was still warm from Adrian. The keyboard was angled wrong. The command window was buried beneath 3 dashboards and a branded overlay designed for demonstrations, not repairs. Ethan closed the overlay. Caleb hovered beside him. What are you doing? Removing the pretty part. He opened the routing layer. Adrian leaned closer. That path isn't in the admin panel. No, Ethan said. His hands moved quickly, but not desperately. That was what everyone noticed first. He did not behave like a man trying to impress anyone. He behaved like a man returning to a house he had built years ago and finding that the new owners had put doors in the wrong walls. He isolated the live investor demo session from the archived training environment. The first red warning disappeared. He locked the deprecated executive test index. The second warning disappeared. He rerouted the active model call away from the legacy memory bridge. The screen stopped flickering. He reset the live session context. Then he forced Orion into restricted reasoning mode, where it could answer only from approved live permissions. For a moment, the hall held its breath. On the main screen, the Orion logo stabilized. No flicker, no fragments, no archived memory. Ethan looked at the diagnostic panel. Then he said, ask it again. Adrian swallowed. Vivian turned back to the audience. Her voice was steady, though anyone close enough could hear the steel holding it together. Arian, she said, please answer Mr. Greer's question again. The logo pulsed once, then Arian responded. Enterprise AI systems should separate live reasoning from stored organizational memory. When privacy restrictions apply, the system must identify the boundary of permissible context before generating recommendations. Restricted historical data should never be retrieved automatically unless access permissions, user authority, and audit requirements are satisfied. The audience listened. No one moved. Orion continued. In a conflict between customer privacy and executive automation, privacy constraints must override convenience. The correct design is not to remember more, but to remember only what the system is permitted to use. A clean answer. A precise answer. The answer Neurovex had promised the world. Thomas Greer stared at the screen for a moment. Then he began to clap. One investor joined him, then another. Then the room erupted. The applause rose so quickly it seemed to strike Vivian physically. She stood under the lights, the Orion logo glowing behind her, the camera still fixed on her face. The room was applauding the product. Yes. But the people near the control table knew the truth. Orion had not saved the launch. Ethan Cole had. At the production table, Lily stood motionless. She was not clapping. She was watching her father. For the first time that day, the adults around her were not looking through him. They were looking at him. Ethan logged out of the command layer and stood. Adrian stared at him. "How did you know that path?" Ethan picked up his clipboard. "Old systems keep old habits." That wasn't an answer. It was the only one you're getting right now. He walked away from the console before anyone could decide whether to thank him or question him. The launch continued because Vivian Cross knew how to recover. She reframed the failure as a live demonstration of Orion's resilience under pressure. She did it so smoothly that half the room wanted to believe it had always been part of the plan. People prefer successful stories when they are already invested in them. But backstage, no one believed that. Adrian did not return to the celebration. He went to the technical review room and pulled the recovery logs. Caleb followed him without speaking. Adrian replayed every command Ethan had entered. The first command was not visible in the standard admin interface. The second referenced a layer Adrian had only seen in old architecture documentation. The third used syntax that should not have been known to anyone outside the original team. Adrian's throat went dry. He searched the internal archive. Most of the old files had been renamed across acquisitions. Orion had been built from 3 companies, 6 research teams, and more inherited than anyone admitted in investor presentations. Names changed, logos changed, founders changed, but old architecture left fingerprints. Adrian searched the routing phrase Ethan had used. A file appeared. "9 Adaptive Routing Layer." He opened it. The metadata loaded. Original systems architect. Ethan Cole. Adrian stopped breathing for a second. He knew that name. Years earlier, as a graduate student, he had read an old technical paper about adaptive context routing in multi-model systems. It had been dry, difficult, and quietly brilliant. The author had been partially buried under institutional credits, but Adrian remembered the notation in the acknowledgments. E. Cole. He had cited that paper once. He had built pieces of his career on ideas that came from it. And that morning he had called the man who wrote it stage support. Behind him, the door opened. Vivian entered. The applause from the main hall still echoed faintly through the walls. "Well?" she asked. Adrian did not turn around immediately. That alone gave her the answer. "What happened?" Adrian pointed to the screen. Vivian stepped closer and read the file name, then the metadata. Original systems architect, Ethan Cole. For the first time that day, Vivian had no prepared expression. Adrian spoke quietly. He didn't guess. Vivian said nothing. He didn't patch the system. He knew it from underneath. Beneath Orion, beneath our interface, beneath the rebuilds, there's an old routing framework. His framework. Vivian kept reading the name. Adrian swallowed. "We didn't build the future without him," he said. "We built it on top of him." Vivian Cross had spent her entire adult life making fast assessments. She could walk into a boardroom and know who held power. She could hear a founder pitch for 2 minutes and know whether the product had bones. She trusted her ability to identify value quickly because speed had rewarded her again and again. But that morning she had looked at Ethan Cole and seen a badge, a jacket, a canvas tool bag, a quiet man with tired eyes and a child sitting beside him. She had mistaken quiet for emptiness. Worse, she had done it publicly. "Where is he?" she asked. Caleb answered from the doorway. "Service corridor." He was packing up. Vivian turned and left. This time, no entourage followed her. The hallway behind the stage was quieter than the main floor. The expensive sound of success faded into ventilation hum and distant applause. Black equipment cases lined the walls. Coiled cables sat near exit doors. A staff member passed, carrying a tray of untouched sparkling water. Ethan stood near the service exit, placing tools into his canvas bag. Lily stood beside him, holding his old notebook against her chest. Vivian stopped several feet away. Ethan looked up. He did not seem surprised. Somehow that made it harder. Vivian had apologized before, but usually in the language of strategy. Regret became recalibration. Mistakes became miscommunication. Harm became unfortunate context. She knew how to sound accountable without surrendering control. This required something else. "I read the file," she said. Ethan zipped the bag. "Then you know what happened." "I know part of what happened. That's usually all companies keep." The sentence was not angry. That made it worse. Vivian took a careful breath. "I called you obsolete," she said. Lily looked at her. Vivian kept her eyes on Ethan. "I said it because I thought the future belonged to people like me." Ethan did not help her. He did not soften the silence. Vivian accepted that. "I was wrong," she said. "The future was standing in front of me, wearing a technician badge." The hallway remained quiet. For a moment Vivian looked as if she might offer him something. A title, a consulting contract, a public correction, a place on the stage. But she understood just in time that any offer made too quickly would only prove she still did not understand him. So she said the thing that had to come first. "I'm sorry." Ethan looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "I appreciate that." Vivian waited, perhaps expecting more. There was no more. He picked up his bag. "I didn't fix it for your company," Ethan said. Vivian held his gaze. Ethan looked at Lily. "I fixed it because my daughter was watching." Lily's fingers tightened around the notebook. Vivian had no answer. Ethan turned toward the exit. Lily followed him. They had almost reached the door when she stopped. "Dad?" He looked down. Her eyes were full of questions she had not known she was allowed to ask. "Were you always this important?" Ethan was quiet for a moment. Behind them, the Orion logo still glowed blue across the hallway wall. The future, polished and branded, shining over service doors and cable cases. He crouched slightly, the way he had that morning when she asked why he did not fight back. "No," he said softly. "I was always just your dad." Lily looked at him. Then she reached for his hand. He took it. Together they walked through the service exit into the pale late afternoon. Behind them, Vivian Cross returned to the stage. She could have ended the launch with numbers. She could have thanked investors, praised the board, and turned the near disaster into a line about resilience. Everyone expected that. Everyone was ready to applaud. Instead, Vivian stood at the glass podium and looked out at the room. "There is one thing I need to say before we close," she said. The hall quieted. Today, Orion answered a hard question about memory. But I was reminded that companies have memories too. Sometimes we build on work we did not honor properly. Sometimes we mistake visibility for value. Sometimes the person who understands the system best is not the person standing under the lights. Adrian watched from the wing. Chairman Ellison stopped smiling. Vivian continued. "A man I dismissed today understood this system better than anyone in this company. That mistake was mine." The room went silent. She held that silence. "Neurovex will be reviewing the origins of the architecture that made Orion possible, and we will correct the record where it needs correcting." She did not say Ethan's name, not because she wanted to hide him, because he had not given her permission to use him. So she finished with the only truth she could offer publicly. The future is not built by arrogance. It is built by people who understand what they are making. The room applauded, but this time Vivian heard it differently. Outside, Ethan and Lily walked down the service ramp toward the street. No cameras followed them. No investors stopped them. No one asked for a statement. Lily slipped her hand into his. "I'm not embarrassed anymore," she said. Ethan looked down at her. She kept her eyes forward. "When people ask what you do, I'm going to say you fix things nobody else understands." Ethan's mouth moved slightly, almost a smile. "That may be difficult to fit on a school form. I'll write small." They walked on. Behind them, the Neurovex Convention Center glowed in the afternoon sun. An analyst would call the launch a triumph. Orion would dominate financial news. Neurovex stock would rise. Vivian Cross would be praised for leadership under pressure. But Vivian knew the truth. So did Adrian. So did Lily. The future had not failed because an obsolete man misunderstood it. The future had nearly failed because the people selling it had forgotten whose hands first built its foundation. And sometimes, the most important person in the room is not the one beneath the brightest light. Sometimes, it is the quiet man behind the stage, holding a tool bag, watching everyone mistake him for the past.